In the ashes of Assad's fall, old ghosts return. ISIS, once buried in the desert, is stirring again. Southern Syria trembles as abandoned bases, lost soldiers, and silent borders feed its rebirth. And just as the black flag flutters once more, Washington signs another $343 million check. In a concerning development from southern Syria, ISIS is exploiting the power vacuum left by the Assad regime's collapse to re-establish its foothold across several provinces. The Syrian Observer reported that analysts warn that this resurgence poses a significant threat to regional stability and international security. Military and strategic analyst Mahmoud Abdel-Salam highlights that ISIS is capitalizing on the chaos following the regime's downfall. The widespread circulation of weapons, especially after army units abandoned many bases, has provided fertile ground for ISIS cells to reconnect and coordinate their activities. Recent terrorist attacks, including bombings in Damascus and Deir ez-Zor, underscore this alarming reactivation. The Observer further said that the group's resurgence is notably pronounced in southern Syria, particularly in the Yarmouk Basin, where ISIS previously maintained a stronghold. Analyst Abdel-Salam notes that Israel's demilitarized zone has inadvertently facilitated ISIS's movement, granting them greater freedom to operate under an Israeli security umbrella. Political researcher Mohammed Abu Sharifa points out that ISIS is expanding its presence across a broad geographic arc, from the Syrian desert to the Suweida steppe. The group's increased online activity, especially concerning southern Syria, indicates a strategic effort to strengthen its influence in the region. Experts attribute ISIS's resurgence to several factors, including weak security deployment in southern Syria, which offers ideal conditions for infiltration. The ongoing security talks between Damascus and Israel regarding the demilitarized southern zone have restricted Syrian military movement, allowing ISIS to exploit these limitations. In Suweida, ISIS has capitalized on local security turmoil, committing massacres that further complicate the situation for the government. Meanwhile, on the military front, ISIS is also benefiting from ideological fragmentation among factions affiliated with the Syrian Defense Ministry. This division has enabled the group to recruit disaffected fighters and exploit the army's limited reconnaissance capabilities. Socially, ISIS is preying on the population's dire economic hardship to recruit local youth, reviving what it calls the Horan Emirate. Analyst Abdel-Salam warns that Israel may be using the group as a strategic pressure card against Damascus, reinforcing its presence in the border zone. Abu Sharifa cautions that neglecting the ISIS issue in southern Syria could transform the region into a breeding ground for terrorism, exporting killers and bomb makers. This not only violates counter-terrorism obligations, but also erodes the region's social fabric and civil peace, undermining Syria's overall stability and complicating its efforts to re-engage with the international community. To combat this growing threat, experts recommend striking ISIS's supply lines in the Syrian desert, conducting proactive surveillance across all provinces, and promoting social awareness among communities to counter the extremist ideology the group continues to spread among youth. The resurgence of ISIS in southern Syria is a stark reminder of the region's fragile security landscape. Addressing this threat requires coordinated efforts from all stakeholders to restore stability and prevent further escalation. Meanwhile, the US Senate has passed the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for the fiscal year 2026, approving a massive $925 billion defense budget that includes $343 million in direct funding for American allies in Iraq and Syria, according to an official defense budget request published by the Undersecretary of War. The bill, which was approved by an overwhelming 77 to 20 votes, authorizes funding for salaries, logistical support, training, and armament of US-verified partner forces operating in Iraq and Syria under the Combined Joint Task Force, Operation Inherent Resolve.
The U.S. Senate has approved the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, for fiscal year 2026, allocating $130 million from the Department of Defense budget to support both the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, and the Free Syria Army. This decision reflects continued international cooperation in counterterrorism and stability efforts in North and East Syria, within the framework of the ongoing partnership between the global coalition and local forces on the ground.
Within this framework, Iraq and Syria remain central to the United States counterterrorism and regional stability strategy. The primary mission, the document notes, is to ensure the enduring defeat of ISIS, with continued support for secure and humane detention of ISIS fighters and the prevention of the group's re-emergence. The Operation Inherent Resolve budget request for financial year 2026 totals $4.5 billion, while the Counter-ISIS Train and Equip Fund has been allocated $358 million to enhance partner forces' operational capabilities. In addition to direct military assistance, the NDAA provides for critical contingencies and operational support for personnel stationed in or operating near Iraq and Syria. This includes funding for surveillance systems, replacement of combat payloads and spare parts, anti-drone platforms, medical and fire support, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) capabilities. According to the budget request, the US mission in Iraq and Syria remains focused on long-term partnerships and ensuring that local forces can sustain security independently. The document emphasizes that Washington's commitment is grounded in close coordination with Iraqi and coalition partners to prevent ISIS's resurgence while advancing humanitarian and stabilization objectives. In a related development, US Representative Joe Wilson announced on X,
Grateful the Senate has passed a repeal of the Caesar Act as part of the NDAA. These very severe sanctions were imposed on a regime which, thankfully, no longer exists. Syria's success now depends on full and total repeal.
Meanwhile, media outlets close to the SDF highlighted that the allocation of $130 million from the financial year 2026 budget underscores continued international cooperation in counterterrorism and stability efforts in North and East Syria, known as Western Kurdistan. The statement affirmed that the decision reflects multilateral coordination to protect civilians, ensure regional security, and advance a political solution for Syria.